I apologize in advance for how all over the place this rant is. I did not put a proper structuring in place for this one, so I'm just kind of going off, and this I think is the purest rant of rants that I've done on this, so I apologize. I feel like this is just a personal gripe, though I'm sure some people can relate to the feeling of frustratedness. This isn't particular to just art TikTok or any social media platforms, any genre of internet content as a whole. I don't know, I find it distressing, but also just, I don't know how to describe it, but there are so many content creators who aren't fully mindful of their audience. Because I feel that when you start to garner an audience of any sort, whether that be big or small, or age demographics as a whole, you have to start being aware of who exactly is engaging in your content. I am by no means, an adult. I am also still very much a child, and I'm sure that particular content creators or specific content creators that I have this gripe with are also in similar age, if not a little bit older, a little bit younger than me. But you have to be aware of your audience, because I find it very clear what type of audience I garner, and that being people who are younger than me in most of these cases. And it's very obvious, like when I'm scrolling through comment sections, when I'm engaging with people within my circle, they are younger than me. I have to keep in mind what information I am disclosing and what is too much to be talking about with younger people. I'm not going to be name dropping anyone in here specifically, because the content creator that I have in mind when I'm talking about this already has a bunch of slack for the things that they do and a lot of pushback for what they do. I get really frustrated with creators, specifically on ArtTok, who have obviously a very young audience, and then they over-sexualize themselves or do things that are overtly sexualized when they are aware of what demographics they have. And as much as you would like, you could put oh, this account is 16 plus or whatever. Children are still going to be engaging with your content, and children is the majority of your content. Exposing them to this type of stuff, given your audience, is weird. Don't do that, And it's frustrating that it isn't common sense for people who are older to kind of be mindful of this and know where boundaries lie. Because there's obviously things that I would never talk about in the presence of people who are incredibly young and don't particularly understand what I'm talking about, Because in my experiences, and I'm sure I will be talking about this in full in the next video I'll be posting this week, I was exposed to a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have been as a child. And again, it is very obvious when somebody is a child on the internet. As much as somebody can lie about their age, it's very obvious. I can tell very quickly. But yeah, I was being exposed to a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have. And that really messed up with my perception of things. And I do have gripes with people who were posting that type of stuff, knowing their audience and knowing what demographics were engaging in said content, and then continuing to do that. You have to... I know I've said this multiple times in this, but it's just frustrating that this isn't a normal thing for larger content creators to be doing. There are specific things that you cannot talk about with your audience, and I know that really sucks because it's like weird connections. And I've talked about parasocial relationships, I've not talked about the other side of that, but you do kind of feel like you have a connection, but you really, really don't. because of the amount of people within your audience. Yes, it's frustrating that like you might be going through something, but that is something to discuss with the proper circle and people who are at least mature enough to understand. Okay, you cannot be confiding in someone who is very much younger than you and does not have the proper tools to help you, because it's just going to be worse for the both of you, if you get what I'm saying. And as a whole, in audiences, I don't have gripes with people posting vent stuff. I get it. One of the places that I've confided in is the internet, because that is my only outlet. But when you start to garner an audience and you know what audience you have to create that barrier between it, you know? And again, it's just kind of weird to be introducing a lot of mature topics to essentially a bunch of children. And it's particularly like all over ArtTok. There are some specific content creators who like to overtly sexualize themselves when it's very, very clear what type of audience they have and what demographics they have, which is children. That's just obvious. But yes, please, once you start to notice who exactly you're drawing in, be mindful. And I know I say mindfulness is so important in every other video I have, but you have to kind of be aware. And I'm sure I'm like dancing around the topic again and again and again. But there's just so many people who I think overshare some things on the internet to younger audiences who don't clearly understand what they mean, or are desensitizing them because of the things that they do and the things that they talk about and the things that they draw, despite knowing their audience's age. It's weird. Don't do it. And of course, I mean this in the general sense, though I am particularly vaguely referencing a specific ArtTok influencer. I feel like this is a general thing that happens on most platforms, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, because I feel like this is something that happens in every internet space as a whole, where there is just that type of person who overexposes things to people, and it's just like a personal vendetta of mine against it. So yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts. I love to discuss, but that's all. I just kind of need to get that out there.